Hey everyone, I hope you're having a super fantastic day wherever you might be. Today we're going to do another story for you, or I'm going to do another story for you. And today's going to be the Buck 110, the Buck 110 that I purchased in 1980. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that story and the knife, etc. I know some of you like some of these stories that I bring you. And one of the reasons why I bring them to you is to provoke some memories in you, because I know you have them as well. You're here right now because of the knife hobby that we're interested in, and this is my way of sharing with you, and I guess kind of letting you know a little bit more about me. I guess it'll resonate with some of you. Some of you might not understand it at all, but that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to switch to a different backdrop for this video.
I can't stand intros.
Okay, the year is 1980, and I'm in high school. And you know, I've talked about my 73 Pinto in other stories, and it shows up in my book as well. That 73 Pinto. A lot of stories there, but today we're only going to focus in on one. And in 1980, I was in high school. I had two friends. Both of them were named Jeff. One Jeff had a set of drums in the basement, and we used to cut class and go to his place, crank up the Led Zeppelin, and that's really where I started getting my chops as a drummer. And the other Jeff was into making weapons of all kinds, and he was the first person I knew that bought a Buck 110. I was thoroughly impressed with his weaponry and his Buck 110. Now, in those days, carrying a buck on your belt was pretty common. It didn't seem out of the ordinary. Nobody even batted an eye. Going down the hallway in school with a Buck 110 on your leather belt, wearing your jeans and your Storm Rider, was not a big deal. One of the things that was very common for me to do in the 73 Pinto was to cut class and hang out in the parking lot and put an 8-track into my player that was mounted at the bottom of the dash, and you go back to that Wenger video, with the tweezers, and they're kind of discolored. Say no more, right? I could probably talk more openly about it now these days, but I'm an old guy, and it's just the way it is. I'm having a hard time transitioning to the new world. So anyway, cutting class and listening to this album. Now, this is the album. We were listening to this album on the 8-track in the car. Some of you know this album. So we cut class, and we're hanging out in the car. And I've got this on my belt. I was going to say in my pocket. I was pretty young and stupid. I pounded nails and hung pictures, using it as a hammer. And anyway, we're in the car, me and Jeff. Jeff, the Buck 110 Jeff. And there was a knock, knock, knock on the window. I was in the driver's seat. And I rolled the window down, and I exhaled, tobacco smoke into the face of a police officer. And of course, I was, so enthralled with this music that was playing, I didn't really care too much. Well, anyway, one thing led to another, and we were asked to come out of the car. And, we came out of the car. And he looked around the car. He looked in the back seat, and there was a stick. The stick was probably about 1.5 inches in diameter. I would say probably about 18 inches long. That's not quite 18 inches, but you know what I mean. On one end of the stick was a chain that was wrapped and wrapped and wrapped to make a ball. And there's about 4 rolls of electrical tape around that ball to keep the chain in place, and halfway down the stick. It was pretty formidable. Like I said, Jeff was pretty good using his imagination and things like that. Now, some of you might think there's nothing imaginative about that, but in those days, it was pretty good. Anyway, it sat at the back seat of the Pinto, to balance out the weight in the wintertime. I needed something there because, I live in Canada and it was very icy. Better for traction. So anyway, the police officer, he looked around the car and he found that stick in the back seat, and he promptly asked what that was. And I told him it was a fish bonker. And true story, he took the stick and he put it up against his nose and started sniffing it. And he said, it doesn't smell like fish. And I said, well, it's because I haven't caught anything yet. And of course, now I'm, in more trouble because I'm, being smart. And so anyway, they frisked us and they found this buck 112 on my belt. And they found Jeff's buck 110. I think that's the original paperwork. So anyway, he took it. He popped open the pouch and pulled out the knife, looked at it. It's kind of like what we're doing together here right now. And he put it back onto my belt. And that's basically the gist of the story. And we're basically told to go back to class and stop hanging around outside listening to this kind of music, because it will make you dysfunctionalized, okay? Listening to this kind of stuff will make you dysfunctionalized. And true, I grew up completely dysfunctionalized. I became a musician, artist, and I question everything. Always have, always will. Thank you. I hope you liked that story. I hope it inspired something in you, maybe a memory of your youth. I forgot to mention this one here. Already done the homework. Here you go. It's the 3 dots. Have a super fantastic day. Bye for now.